Sometimes I think it's helpful to have a simple reminder that this, we could say Buddha nature, we could say realization, we could say reality. I might say unfiltered experience, probably the most accurate, unfiltered experience. Unfiltered experience means it's not filtered by thought. It means that there's a very direct knowing that's not an intellectual knowing. It's not an informational knowing. It's not a philosophical knowing. It is lived as this. This being not a thing, not an object, not an external world, not an internal world. What I'm referring to doesn't have parts per se. It's already essentially everything, already complete. Doesn't have an entry or exit point. Nothing needs to cause it because it's just already this. And this is what we wake up to. And at some point that awakening gets deep enough that even the sense of the one who woke up to it dissolves. The sense of the one who woke up as this stops functioning, stops having meaning, stops having an experiential signature. This doesn't mean that there's like some kind of blankness, nothingness. This isn't a nihilistic view. It's not a view at all. It's a simple description of that which is beyond description, beyond time and space. But it's also simpler than time and space. It's ridiculously immediate. And this is simply a reminder that is already the case. It's not the case for me or for you or for this person or that person. It's just the case. It's not for anyone. When we start thinking in terms of what something's for, what its purpose is, what its value is, what its meaning is, we're thinking in terms of dualistic view, right? What does it mean to me? What is its value to me? Etc. What does it mean about me? What does it say about me? And this that I'm pointing to doesn't say anything about anything. It doesn't need to. It can't be expressed in words, but it can be realized. And that realization can go deeper and deeper and deeper until things get rather paradoxical. Things get to where it's not even clear what seemed to not be all of this already. It's not completely clear what the separate self structure even is, because it can't be found. And the looking can be valuable for sure. The looking itself, the introspection, inquiry, basically shows you all the dead ends of the mind, the dead ends of fabrication, the dead ends of trying to cause something or keep something happening, not in the relative sense, because in the relative world there is cause and effect and so forth, but in the sense that it's just here. Again, what we wake up to has never been lost, never been out of your experience. It's never been missing. It doesn't mean that there's no value to awakening. It doesn't mean there's no value to inquiry. But what is realized ultimately is laughably obvious and very clear that it's just always this, always has been, always will be, so to speak. But putting it in time doesn't make a lot of sense. This is not subject to time. It's not subject to space. It's not subject to object or subject. We could call it just total freedom. Total freedom is a good word for it. Because it's free to be anything, including free to be an experience of a human being apart, a suffering human being. Indeed, the suffering that arises in the human psyche is really a gift. Super uncomfortable, of course. And it's kind of tragic when it doesn't have a resolution. If there's no sense that there could be a resolution to it, that massive suffering can be really brutal. But when there's a sense of it having a point to it, or maybe a resolution, or that it actually has some deeper hidden meaning, the suffering, that it's pointing you somewhere, then we start to recognize the sacredness of it. And at some point we'll realize that the suffering itself and the realization that is clarified through investigation of the nature of suffering are also not two. Sometimes this is stated as samsara is nirvana. But that's down the road. Most of the time it's not early on that's really, really clearly seen. So if there's a pointer here, it's just be open and curious. But don't try to solve the curiosity with conclusions. Don't try to solve the curiosity with views. That will be unsatisfying. Rather, just keep that openness and the curiosity as a natural moment-to-moment experience, regardless of your situation, and it will serve you well.